Hi, Christine.
Hello. Happy Taco Tuesday.
It's Taco Tuesday. I'm not having tacos tonight, though.
I got a taco truck right outside.
How nice. How nice.
Oh, but I'm trying to
Well,
avoid it. Hey,
it's
guess what? It's the end of January already. Can you believe
thank goodness. I mean, as Ranger fans, I just want to say that I think the end of January and the All-Star break couldn't come soon enough.
You know,
From being on the road, those last couple of games with the Rangers, I think we needed a break emotionally and physically.
it's funny because just 30 days ago, we literally ended the year first place, and then there was a rough patch, a slump. The word slump kept coming up. So an interesting way to define it that I think we're going to pursue further, like maybe on our next show with a guest that we have coming up. Because I briefly kind of touched on what do you define as a slump? Is there is there a limit for that? I mean, is it 3 losses? Is it more than one? Is it what? Because people again throw out these crazy words that I think they've been waiting all week, year of their life to use.
I know Rangers Twitter is actually really terrifying right now because you don't know. And
I said you got attacked for talking about Miller.
I've defended Rangers fans on Twitter because I feel like in the last couple of weeks, we never knew which Ranger team was going to show up. So we didn't know if it was going to be like the we're going to win the cup this year team or the we're absolutely terrible and should be in dead last team. So that's fair. Just by ways of introduction, if you are new to the podcast, we are Double Defense, an all-female New York Rangers and NHL podcast. I'm Liz. This is my co-host, Christine. We're both Ranger fans living in Southern California. And we come here every week to talk NHL, hockey, and PWHL and a lot more. And we have a lot to dive into this week.
And we're not going to forget Sarah. So we do have a third co-host. He's just busy with work. We're going to kind of, we go on. Nevertheless, that's why Double Defense has 3 people. And so we can always continue forward and move on. So, Sarah's always with us here in spirit. And, we're working to, kind of help clear her schedule a little bit more so she can give us wonderful updates on. Well, I think that's why she doesn't really want to come on, because her giving updates would be on the Penguins and the Flames. And I think I would kind of take a little break too.
So, I was going to say, I think it's just her choice of teams, which is why she's laying a little bit low. Although,
I time to convert her, but yeah,
we're trying. But the Eastern Conference, it is an interesting, tough race right now in the East. So the Rangers, yes, we are in first place in the Metropolitan, and that's great, and we're very happy about that. But there are not a ton of
narrowing, though. We are there by the skin of our teeth because everything's really evening out. And as much as people want to explode, when you look at the points, really, it's a good tough race. It's going to get exciting. So. It's a battle for the top. It's a battle for the first place. It's a battle for trophy. And more importantly, and not for us, it's going to be a battle for that wild card spot. So, get ready to kind of hold the fire down and the teams are going to approach things as we kind of, because I always feel that once we come back from this break, it's a crazy net and it gets really super fun. This is where I love it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, we should
start cashing in my chips, right?
Yeah, we should be checking the stats on bovadasportsbook.com because we'll find out, now with the way that the last couple of weeks is going, we'll see how the Rangers are shaping up to be in the odds, at least for winning the cup. So yeah, there's a lot that we're going to dive into this week.
You know what? There's still, when we talk about that, and we can kind of put it out there too. We can ask about the odds for winning the cup now, and as we get closer, let's talk about this more. It becomes, just because we saw this with not our team, we're going to say Boston. So, there's such a reset. So it's almost like you want to get in. Really, it's about positioning too. So there's a strategy going in there. But really, when you get into the playoffs, it's a whole reset. And it really is anyone's game. I mean, and the Kings, when Matt's on, we talk about that. In 2012, when I watched them skyrocket from 8th place down 3-0 to win the cup, again, I will always say that I watched a lot of those games with my mouth dropped, like, what is happening? Because they played against stellar teams who just crumbled and when it was just something you didn't see. I mean, we saw it and we kind of took it out on the Rangers against the Devils last year. So let's kind of see. And we expect them, to play their best. Like when we see them play a really great game, like they ended this break with a great game. Everybody started scoring 7 goals, 7 scores. It was amazing. The points were even more. And they kind of came alive. That's really the team we want to see.
Yeah.
We are going to see things shaken up because we've got drafts coming in, and that always kind of shakes things. I never think it does.
And we also have the trade deadline coming up on March 8th. So rumors are running rampant.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder what Bravada does when they're like kind of assessing this and how these change right before versus right after. So it'd be something to kind of look at.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested in seeing.
I think it depends on the caliber of player that the Rangers can acquire and who we're going to be saying goodbye to. I've seen some rumors today about Kako being up on the shopping block. I don't know if those are true or not, or if they're just rumors.
Well, he's a good commodity to trade. I always also, as much as I love my players, coming from a business side, it is a business. When a player's doing really well, they're a really good commodity. They're going to get a really good deal. Nash was one of the players. Unfortunately, you trade our good players, you might get a good deal. So like we've seen plays like Nash got traded to Boston, but then he ended up having a concussion and retiring. They didn't get him for too long, so we got the good end of the deal there. Zook went to the Y. Well, actually, he went to Dallas first, and I think in his first week or first game, he like broke something, and he was out, and then he was traded. So now he's like, he's comfortable and he's doing really well in the Wild. So we see. Oh, and of course, the most famous one, was Henrik Lundqvist, where I was talking about with Matt the other day when he was traded. It was a Friday, and I cried. And because he was traded to the team, I told my son I would never watch him play on if he got drafted to the Capitals, and he never played a game. So
he had a heart issue, right? That's what.
Yeah, but no, because his heart said no to the Capitals, and guess where he came back to? The Rangers. So he made it work out that way. So that those are really always great deals. I mean, I have seen rumors of us trying to obtain, Tarasenko back as well.
I've seen a lot of talk about the Rangers potentially getting Tarasenko back.
Yeah. So, I love watching all the rumors because, none of these people talking no. so let it go down.
And you have to wonder with like the playing over the last couple of weeks. So obviously the Rangers had a super hot start, have gone into a quote unquote slump over the course of the last few weeks. I almost wonder if that's really changed strategies, just from the coaching perspective of who might be out and who might be coming in, because I think a lot of the flaws and sort of missing links were identified in a big way over the last couple of weeks, which, in a certain way, if you're going to look at it, might actually be a really big gift, so that the Rangers could really look at and assess the talent that they have, make the changes that they need now to go on an awesome run. And I think, just going back to what you said before, I've always felt that the playoffs are a completely different animal. It's like completely different hockey. As long as we can scrape our way into the playoffs, and for all intents and purposes, there should be no issue with us making the playoffs this year. The stats are tight among the Metropolitan Division and the Eastern Conference. However, most of our games, this is the way it's going to map out. The Eastern Conference teams are going to be playing each other, so it's very unlikely that any of those teams are going to get so many points that they could potentially pass us and take us out of the playoffs. So I don't think that's going to happen. So as long as we can squeak into the playoffs, we might pull, we could pull Florida Panthers. Look at them from last year. They just
it doesn't matter. Once you get in there, you have a different mentality. So and thinking back with how Vegas played, when we were in Vegas last year, they were in their slump, and they were losing and dropping from, the top spots down. So it's funny to see like where they were when we were there and playing, and then we won that game to where they ultimately ended up, and also how they played in the Stanley Cup. they played perfect.
Yeah, they did.
They really, I mean, if you kind of go back and watch any of those games, I was just so amazed that they didn't let anything get to them. They stuck to, skill and, and try not to get tripped up by by antics of other players. And that's kind of what cost them the game, for the Vegas to win was, is trying to kind of use a little bit of thugness or, just, different, and not just playing the game well and focusing. So, well,
I think Florida last year was I think they were just so surprised to find themselves where they were. I don't think, and I mean, no one expected them to beat Boston the way that they did, but Florida's on a good run. They are, when the game that I went to see a couple of weeks ago, they had just won 9 in a row. They did lose that game, but they've won another 4 in a row now. I'm hearing from my contacts down in Florida. So they might be the dark horse for this year. I would be curious what Bovada's odds are on the Florida Panthers for the Cup this year. Now they're in second place. They're just behind the Bruins in the Atlantic. So the Bruins have, just looking at points, the Bruins have 71 points. The Panthers have 66. They've kind of come out of nowhere and they keep winning.
Hey, look, these dark horses, not really dark horses, but these people that, the teams are kind of flying up the rails there. I mean, again, I'm more focused on our division and our team, maybe the Kings or the teams we just played. And all of a sudden you hear the Oilers, have won 16 straight and they're coming up. And oh, wait, who's their coach? And everyone's like, what the heck happened?
Totally. I was not following. I really had not been following the Western Conference that closely. And one of my friends who's an Oilers fan, posted that on Facebook, and I'm like, wait, what? This is going to be an interesting year. It'll be going into the All-Star break, and we'll have to talk about the All-Star game because I think you're seeing, some of the events that are being planned around it. I know anything with Justin Bieber involved, I'm not.
I know, I saw that. I was so
excited for.
And I'm like, and it's got the Hughes brothers. I'm like, oh, come on. I'm already over it. I'm already done. I mean, look, it's like they can't compete with the Swifties, bottom line, sorry to say. So just give it up. It's really kind of a lame attempt to do so, in my opinion. I don't really know where the NHL's going with all this, like, kind of, glam and glitz for stuff, as opposed to just really kind of going and having fun, and playing the skills competition and stuff. So, yeah. So we can talk about the
NHL needs their Taylor Swift. Let me just say that the NHL needs their Taylor Swift. Who is going to be the one who's going to bring, like, a new era, new audiences into the sport? Who is it going to be? And I don't know if it's going to be Miller's girlfriend. I was stalking her Instagram, and I don't think it's going to be her.
It could be, like, hey, you might have your one way of feeling about him on the ice, but off the ice, he's got his little model poses, he's got his hot girlfriend, and like he definitely has a side business of someone to fall back on if anything happens.
100%.
No worries.
This would be an interesting research project that I think I'm going to undertake, is what NHL player is dating the most famous person?
Oh, these days.
Yeah. I mean, in the history, there's been a lot. I don't know what's lasted, but who currently is dating the most famous person?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So, there's a few, like, married couples and former couples and stuff through time that I can kind of recall. So yeah, that would be a fun one. I can look up a couple too and just kind of see some fun ones, for couples, throughout time. There's what's her name? Candace Bure, so
Candace Cameron.
Yeah. So, like, right there, I mean, that's just the one I know the most.
Not Taylor Swift level. We need Taylor Swift level.
Oh, what's her name? That country singer is married to a hockey player too.
Which one? Oh no, we'll do some research. We'll get back to you.
The blonde
Fans of Buffalo defense. Watch the space. We will be back to you.
Where I failed miserably. Hockey,
information.
country music, high, low, no. So we have one of the things I will say for the upcoming, so we're in our break, and we, where some people are going to go and have fun, again, Trocheck was added, so they're going to go off. We got 3, and them and their coach, like the big brother of their dad. Like, I don't know how much fun they're going to have, especially with how Igor is, leaving the break and coming back. Everyone else is just going to go home and relax, have fun, do some practices. Panarin's about ready to have a baby, as we know. Yesterday? Matthew texted me. He goes, look at the NHL app for Thursday. And if you look at it, it lists the PWHL game. So props to the NHL app for kind of promoting what everybody should be promoting, which is, the PWHL. And they are participating in the thing. They're going to, there's 24 players that were chosen to represent the PWHL in the All-Star festivities. And then we'll be doing a 20-minute 3-on-3, just like the guys, and playing their own games. So that's exciting to see, as they're just newly formed as a league, and they're being, accepted and put in and included in this, this All-Star weekend too. So, all the games are going to be on ESPN Plus, ESPN. So we'll be able to kind of watch it, which is great. Thanks to you and Sarah, if I get to watch it, yay! And that'll be fun. And then we'll be back to business, on Monday.
Yeah, we get back. I think we kick off on, I think it is Monday, the 5th of February against the Avalanche. That is a tough game to start the second half of the season with. And we will have to check the odds on Bovada about that one.
I was just going to say, also, what are we thinking, how do the All-Star game's going to go? Do you think so?
I don't know. Does it even matter? I just know the jerseys are ugly.
I just want to watch Igor, shoot targets with a hockey stick or whatever they were doing. They play golf with hockey sticks.
Well, also don't forget, last year, wasn't the All-Star game, was it in Florida or was it Nashville?
It was in
one of the years it was Florida.
Yeah. It was in Florida with those ugly jerseys. All of these things are ugly.
Ugly.
So
it's in Toronto this year, and I wonder if that means that they're going to keep it a little more serious, a little more hockey focused. It's just going to maybe have, but then in the same,
it'll be cold.
It'll be cold, but then
so
in the same
in Florida, they can't be doing the beach stuff they were.
No, but then they get Justin Bieber and those awful jerseys. If you're going to be serious about it and actually give it some stakes and consequences. But I mean, it really is just designed to, I guess, get eyeballs. But I'd be so curious to know who actually tunes in, what the audiences are.
Yeah, this is kind of going and pulling in from the conversation we had last year when they made a game of cartoon, right?
Yes.
So with, it just, honestly, it just sounds desperate. It sounds like a desperate attempt to kind of, pull in things at the last minute. Why are these a surprise? Why are we waiting so long? We just got, we have the Stadium Series coming up in a couple weeks, with, Philly and Devils and Islanders and Rangers, and they just released the jerseys. What's the wait for? Why is it because I know it's crappy. All these designs are
What did you think of the jerseys?
I thought they were not impressive, so.
Yeah, I thought they were kind of boring. I didn't mind. I thought the Islanders one was kind of different, kind of cool.
I did pull, and I
didn't love the Rangers one.
Yeah, I think the poll was more the Devils had the better design out of all of them. When I kind of put that out there. So, everyone's like, meh. I don't think we're not going to be seeing people sport them. Hey, that jersey you've got on. That's what people are liking.
Thank you. This is courtesy of Michelle, who is our guest host and resident Florida Panther fan. I do really like it. It's a third jersey. And someone was telling us, and I did not know this until we went on our road trip, and someone was saying that the stripes here represent the lights in front of Madison Square Garden. So I thought that was super cool. I really, really like that.
See, and that's what makes things like that. That's why I like those things. Sometimes you don't even realize why you do, but then you find out the meaning, just like the espresso beans. So,
Oh, yes.
I'm like,
You're talking about
yes.
espresso martini.
Yeah, and it was funny because it was on the news or an episode of something like right after too. So, if you didn't know, what we're talking about is the espresso beans. When you get an espresso martini, they will put 3 coffee beans in there. It represents the past, the present, the future. And as you drink it, you give a thought to the past, think about the present, and also the future. So it's a little experience in itself. Either way, it's one of my favorite drinks. So.
And see, listen to Double Defense. You will learn random stuff. We are not just going to talk hockey. We are going to talk a lot
the things
of
that people tell us now when we're out and about, right? It's funny, So
absorbing
we will
so much.
We will share everything.
I
know, like we should get so we have East and West coming back, and then again, Bravada's gonna be fun to kind of watch. Again, once we get these games back. So I'm really excited. Again, this is where I get all hyped up and get excited. It's just watching this mad dash to the finish line, so to speak, for these teams. And I'll be doing it on the PWHL side too, because they're about halfway through their season, and they're doing really well in how they're playing. And I don't know if anyone's watching. I saw a comment about somebody saying like, hey, what do you think about women refs in the league? I don't like them. And my comment, of course, was, well, it's a good thing you're not in charge. So, because you're not. And, if you haven't had a chance to watch, a game, I'm going to just prop it up. And Matthew, and next time we have Matthew on, Matthew's been really watching it. And it's so funny because he was a little nervous about kind of talking about the PWHL, knowing it's a women's sports league. And I'm like, look, we're females giving, our perspective, on this kind of male dominated sport that's being played, but also within the podcast world too, because it's just our perspective of things. So it's great to have, a man come in and kind of give his perspective of what he's seeing, because there's a really good comparison to things. I think I'm actually enjoying the play-by-plays. They're the ones I want to see doing play-by-plays and doing the commentary and doing the interviews. These are smart, intelligent, knowledgeable women, not Emily Kaplan. Thank God I missed whatever you said she was wearing on Friday.
She went again, just for the record, we are big supporters of hockey. It's awesome that Emily Kaplan does what she does. She needs to get a stylist. She went from last week dressing literally like a nun pilgrim to being dressed kind of like a dominatrix in the span of a week. She went the complete opposite direction. She was wearing I'm not even kidding, it was like a low-cut leather button-up shirt.
That was her reaction to all the people railing her for that ugly outfit she wore before.
100%. You could tell she took the note and went the complete other way. Emily, if you listen to this podcast, I am sure that you do not, but if you do, we welcome your comments. We would welcome the chance to work with you.
I can go shopping with you.
Yes, that'll be part of the, we'll do a full makeover. It'll be fabulous. So anyway, on to a slightly more serious topic that we did want to touch upon. There have been some really interesting stories coming out of the NHL in this last week about a group of players who have now been accused of sexual assault. There were several players that took extended leaves of absences. And I think, unfortunately, we're seeing this more and more in the NHL, which is also, maybe another testament.
Well, for different reasons, though. So separate this from the other thing. So for these guys, so the case, and we're still looking at this, because I didn't hear about this when it happened, so this is
was this from back in 2018?
2018. So these are all 25-year-olds from the 2018 Olympic team that, had, and there was 8 guys in total that are involved in this. And
it was 8 players from the Canada junior team.
Right.
In 2018, right. who were this year in this last week accused of sexual assault.
They reopened the case. They had closed the case. If you're reading about it, it was something where they had closed the case. There was some other kind of civil suit where they worked some arrangement out with the female who was accusing them, and then the state or whatever or whatever they're called in Canada, they reopened it on their own. So I think there's not a statute of limitations there for things like this. So they've all been ordered to surrender, and all, so when we see the story, it's funny because, we were talking about this in an early episode with Keandre taking a leave, and kind of discussed it in a little bit, detail, and what our thoughts were. And then we see this, and then you're like, oh, something else. Oh, but this is completely different, So that is, it's an interesting thing. I think the devil, the one from the Devils, they actually kind of, made a more clear statement, because, as we'll kind of talk further into this, these kind of things affect, certain sports networks and gambling things, and yeah, it's like, I'm going to check on Bravada to kind of see how this affects those teams.
Absolutely. And there's some big name players who were named in this accusation, and it's not anything that, I don't think the league's taking it lightly. I don't think the police are taking it lightly. I think that they're taking it quite seriously, but obviously it does affect teams, especially this time in the season.
Yeah, we were, in fact, it's funny, we were talking about, Matt and I were talking about, the one guy, so, had the incident where the guy died from the slash to,
yeah.
And so the other guy surrendered. Well, I haven't heard anything about that since.
I just read an update on the case. So the coroner has basically said, and this is UK law, which I'm not super familiar with, but they basically said that they won't do any more inquiries until the police investigation is over. As far as I know, I don't think the person who was accused of it has played any games. I think he's just been sitting out. But basically, things are at a standstill, and then the coroner will decide, once the police report and the police investigation is done, what the next steps are. And if they
and I think it's private. It remains like a private information until that report is released. So that's kind of whole. But it seems like that's a whole kind of thing too. But and going on to it, so the new news this week in the league is Patrick Lane, who's with the Blue Jackets, was just kind of has entered the a players assistance program for for leave. And I was kind of talking about with our potential future guests, who we'll have on Sunday. We'll talk about that a little bit before we go. It was kind of an interesting thing where, I wonder if, it's something we're just more hearing about. No one's obligated to tell us when someone takes a leave, and they are protected. They, the leagues do have resources for them, which is amazing. And the fact that I think, people feel like they need to know, and they get pressured to kind of say it. But then also, again, there's gambling sites, the huge sponsors that kind of need to know. So there seems to be an obligation to kind of put something out there, which, is really, I don't know. I'm really caught in the middle with emotionally on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I also wonder, the hockey that you and I grew up watching, it's a different game. It's a different generation of players. I mean, I'm guessing the average player in the NHL, and this would be an interesting question, what is the average age of an NHL player? I'm guessing it's early to mid 20s. And maybe there's a couple of players that are older, but these are very vulnerable times. And these guys are putting themselves through so much. There's so much pressure. There's people scrutinizing them all the time. Like I was actually thinking about that today. I was listening to one of our fellow Ranger podcasts and hearing, somebody basically tear apart the work of one of the players. And I understand it. We do that too. But how hard that must be. And I was thinking, imagine if there was a podcast that just analyzed how I did my job every day and commented on it.
Exactly.
And again, I don't get paid $8 million, but it's still really hard no matter what your paycheck looks like. So it's just interesting to kind of see how players are dealing with this pressure, and if this is a trend that's happening, or this is something that the league's going to get used to, people just being more upfront about issues that they're having, concerns, mental health issues, which is maybe not a bad thing to be able to express that and be supported for it.
Oh, absolutely. I think, I think these kids have come in there a lot younger than I think they used to be. And, if we're comparing older players from when, since I got into hockey, okay, I'm old enough to say we didn't have Facebook. We didn't have, I don't even think there was MySpace, so it's like none of these kind of things. I'm like, what? That wasn't even a word back then. So, don't make me feel old.
We are older than we look. You might think that we're both 22. We are not.
When I learned things that I just, let me just digress for 2 seconds. When I was in New York during the winter last time, I had a car. I rented a car, and I couldn't roll down the window to kind of get my, to give the, the attendant the paperwork. And I'm like, it's stuck, and it was frozen. And I'm like, I don't understand this. And then I realized that the last time I had a frozen stuck window, I could roll the window down, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so old.
I saw a whole talk on parents telling kids like the phrase roll down the window, and they didn't even understand what that meant. They didn't know why you even say that.
I know. I'm like, oh no. So, so we didn't have a lot of those things. And, and one of the things I keep hearing, going back to like Bedard, who's really young and has a lot of fame. I mean, he's out for now, but I'm hearing a lot of these commentators talking about how they praise him for handling the press and handling this. So, they have sponsors, they have press coming at them. They're inundated with all these things, and they're expected to do these things. And do these kids think about it when they play hockey and want to play in the NHL? No, they just want to go play hockey. Right. And they don't realize sometimes all the things that come with it, especially when you're not doing well. So I'm surprised, and I'm sure there are more that we don't know about, because quite honestly, it's none of our business. We want to see people coming back stronger and better. Patrick Lane is on leave, but he also has been injured. So there's a physical injury that goes along with that. So other people shouldn't really jump to conclusions on things.
And don't forget like the mental toll of being an athlete with a physical injury that takes
like Heedle for instance. I mean, look, we are like everybody. We wanted them to go home from like the loss in San Jose. I'm like, you have somebody waiting for you. This is gonna be great. And they put Benito on waivers. They're like, we got him back, and then something happened, and he's out for the rest of the season.
And what happened was it wasn't even like a contact injury. I think he like tripped over like a stick or something. It was just like him, Lecision, and like one other person on the ice, and he went down. And I mean, maybe he never was properly healed. I don't want to speculate on this. I'm certainly not a doctor, not even a hockey player. So
this injury amazes me too, because I don't really want to go back and look at it, but I feel like I didn't feel like there was anything like this crazy when
his initial it wasn't. And I think some people are more prone to like concussion injuries, and maybe he's one of them. And almost you have to kind of look at it and go, maybe it's for the best that he even found this out before something worse happened to him.
Like, look, we were just talking about Henrik, with the heart condition. It was something that triggered it so that he found it. Otherwise, it could have been a different story.
Yeah, this could be literally life-threatening.
Yeah, and honestly, too, as a hockey mom, you'd be surprised that I know. So when they start getting into the PWI or the different leagues where they can check, they start doing concussion testing. So they do have to go through a doctor's visit and cognitive testing, for them to play. But I also have come across parents whose kids have had like 2 or 3 concussions, and I'm like, why are they still playing? I'm like, do you realize how that can affect them in 20 years?
Yeah.
So, you don't know. I mean, if these kids have been playing since they were, 7 or 8, and they've done it, they have injuries as a kid. Yeah, this is what's going to happen when they're older. So, but a lot of them are tough. One of my son's hockey coaches was young, had really bad ankles. If you saw them, you'd be like, oh God. But he kept trying to play for some junior leagues, some minor leagues. And he's like, it's painful. It's not good, but I only have so much time to do it. So they push through everything because they know their time is limited. So that's the will of an athlete too, to kind of push things until they can't anymore. So, as we kind of, go through this year and we're able to kind of, get some people into more interviews, it's a great question to kind of ask and see how much, they do push their bodies. And for some of these older guys, what's the price you're paying for it now?
Yeah, another question for our special guest who will be on with us next week, which we are really looking forward to.
Yeah. So we have, I wonder what the odds for Bravado would have been for the teams back then. That'd be a great thing to kind of see what they would have been.
You know what? I wonder if there's like even some sports betting websites like that have like old stats like that.
That'd be fun, huh?
It would be super fun because I'm sure Vegas. I'm sure there were still, betting odds.
That's how I would play. I won $50 in Vegas too, just by doing penny slots. So it's not surprised I won anything.
Nicely done.
So
I should have bet on, and when we were in Vegas, I was kicking myself because I knew Kansas City would make it to the Super Bowl because of all this Taylor Swift stuff. So I should have put money on.
Right. There's a conspiracy thing on that too. But were we talking about this last time where Andrew was saying, if you're going to bet somebody, what you got to bet is if there's a former Ranger on the team we're playing, bet that they're going to score because they always do.
Every time.
And anybody who does that, I'd like a percentage of those winnings, please. So
every time, I think John from Locked On New York Rangers, I think he did an analysis of players scoring against the Rangers. And it's like the Rangers are exceptionally higher than like the next highest team. So either the Rangers are trading away really good talent, or there's revenge, or there's something else afoot. I don't know. But on that note, please stay tuned. Thank you for joining us today. We have a lot of exciting things to look forward to. A very tough second half of the season for the Rangers, a tough schedule, but
I say fun. I'm always the optimist here. And our next podcast, we will have a special guest, a New York Ranger alumni with us. So stay tuned for that. And definitely listeners will be live then. We'll kind of put that out there for people to listen in, and if they have any questions or or comments for us, and then we'll look forward to the start of the second half, and hopefully Igor's got his mojo back. Otherwise, they're sending the hounds. He'll find
it. He'll dig it up again. All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.